Want to Dockerize and deploy your Django app with GitHub Actions? In this video, I will show you how to set up CI/CD, Redis, Celery, PostgreSQL, and Elasticsearch, all on AWS EC2. By the end of this video, you will have a fully Dockerized Django app running on AWS EC2 with GitHub Actions for automated deployment. Redis for task management, Celery for background jobs, PostgreSQL as a database, and Elasticsearch for search functionality. So let's get started and we can done it successfully. So first of all, we have to set up our Django project locally. We have to prepare it so we can deploy it on EC2. First, I will just clone my GitHub repo. If you want to, first of all, test with my GitHub repo, and you can utilize it, you can clone it. If you will be using your own project, I will also explain you. So first of all, I will just open my Visual Studio Code, and I have cloned this repo locally. So if you have your own project, then you will make some changes. If you're just using this GitHub repo, mine repo, then you don't need to change anything. I will explain you what is inside the structure. So first of all, what you have to do, if you are just going to utilize this configurations in your project, you have to first copy this folder, which is a build process folder, and then you have to also copy this app content folder. Just make sure you have these folders like media root, static root, templates, but inside these folders you can empty these folders, which is fine, or you can just copy whole folder from my project and the build process. Then you have to copy two files as well. If I go into the backends folder, you have to copy this. Make sure you have this ASGI file available in your project, and you can make sure you have these kind of settings in your project. This is a backend folder name, so it will be according to your project structure if you're using your own GitHub repo. And then you have a Celery config file, okay, because we have some initial basic setup for the Celery, so your project will stop Celery, task, and all these things. So you can also copy this file. Just make sure you update this path here as per your project name, where your settings.py file is. So you have to copy ASGI celery.config. So when you are done, then you have to make sure a few things in your settings.py file. If I go into the settings.py file, you have to make sure, if I just show you, the Celery package is here, okay, and static files and white noise package, channels, these are available in your installed apps. And then you have to go, you make sure this line is also available. And next, what you have to do, make sure, because we are going to use PostgreSQL, and your database configuration should be something like that. So we will be going to read all these configurations for env file. So make sure you have this kind of setup in your project. And then you make sure static root, because we will be reading static root location from env, and this should be also good to go. And the channel layers, and this should be also defined in your project settings file. And then these lines, make sure these are also available in your project, and the Elasticsearch code as well. And you can also copy these lines from my code cache. Okay, so then you will have a basic setup of your Django project which supports all these configurations, and you are good to go. Then one more thing, which is this file init.py. Just make sure you have imported the Celery configuration here, and this is done. So we are done with this. One more thing, which is a requirements.txt file. Just make sure all these packages that I'm using, because some are Celery based, some are PostgreSQL, some are supportive for Elasticsearch, and especially Jonicon, and these packages must be in your requirement.txt file. This is the basic structure. These changes you have to make in your project. So so you can make sure your project can easily run locally first. So when you are done with this, and then we have to do, I'm just going to run the project locally. Okay, for this I have to run a command, which is, I will also add this in the readme, so you can just copy this command from readme as well. So what I'm going to do, this is the command, which is a docker compose command I will be going to run to start this project. Okay, and we are then good to go. But one more thing, before you start running this command, make sure you have a Docker desktop application running on your system. How you can download, you can just go to the official website of Docker. You can download Docker desktop, and the Docker desktop application is up and running, okay, and installed. So I will be also going to open my Docker application first. And I will make sure to zoom it. Okay, so now I have to go to my terminal. I will be just going to execute this command, because this command is docker compose command. It will go to the build process folder, and it will execute this compose file, which is available in this file, in this folder. So we have to just initially run this, and we will go in detail what is available in this file, and we can understand better. So just hit enter. So you will see our project is building, and it is created and started. For the first time it can take 1 to 2 minutes, and then you will open into the Docker desktop. You will see this build process, and if I show you here first, you can see all these applications are running. This is for Postgres, this is for Celery, this is for Elasticsearch, and this is for the Redis. All the containers are running. Okay, if I zoom out, so you can see all the containers are running and successfully started. So because of this blue color, green color, you can just see. And if I go into my Django production, okay, and I can see my application is running successfully. This is how you can determine your application is started successfully. In case if your configurations are okay, you can just stop, and you can just restart it, so everything will be okay. When you are done with this, then what you have to do, we have to understand one thing. We have to understand what is in this Docker compose file. So first of all, we have a version of the Docker compose, which is not much important to understand this, and then we have a services. In the services, we are going to discuss all these services one by one. We have a Redis service, and in the Redis service we have a Docker base image, which is official image available on Docker Hub. So I'm using the latest Redis image, and the container name I'm giving a Redis, and the ports, which is 6379, which is a port we use for Redis. And the network, I have defined the network because I have a different services. I want to make a bridge between all these services so they can communicate with each other. So I've just given the network name Elastic, but you can give any name to your network. And then restart always, to make sure if any failure or something happens, so your container should be automatically restarted. And then we are coming to the Elasticsearch service, which is we are using a base image, which is official image, and I have given the Docker container name, and then we have a volume here defined for our Elasticsearch, and the environment, which is like basic settings to make sure it does not use more space and memory, and the port, which is 920 we use for the Elasticsearch, and the network, And then we have a Postgres service, which is the database that I'm using a database inside the Docker Compose. So it will set up and get prepare my database, so I can easily integrate and use this with my Django. These are the username, password, and database name. You can just replace these database password name if you want. When you replace this, just make sure you have the env file where you can also replace it. So make sure if you're changing the username and the password, okay, so make sure just replace these three things in env as well. And this is the port and the volume for our database and the network. And then we have a backend. In the backend, we are using Linux, a base platform where our application, our container will be based on and running. So yeah, the Docker file that I'm using, I have the Docker file inside this folder. You can see this Docker file I am using. We will also learn that in the Docker file, you can see this line is very important, backend.settings. So this is my project where my settings.py file is. So you can just make sure if you're using your own project, you have to update it. And I'm using Python 3.12 Slim's images are more better to reduce the size of your Docker image, and some basic configurations that I need to run. And then I'm going to copy the requirement.txt file and I want to install the packages. Then I have to create a work directory and packages installation. Then I'm exposing my port on 8080, which is also good to go. And then we have to create logs. These lines are not required, so I will just remove. And then we have to copy everything from this folder to this home, okay, inside the Docker. And then this will be the command. We will be running 4 workers of JohnnyCon to run our application on port 8080. And this is a backend folder name where my WSHI file available, and we are good to understand. And this file also does not make sense. We can delete it, and we can also delete this folder. Okay, so and here we go. We can see the app environment that which is I'm using production, which is also defined here in the env file as well. If I go in the settings.py file, and at the top I will show you I have defined. For this project I have not defined, but if you have something you are managing for your bigger project, you have to check if it's running locally or production. So you can define env in the env what is the environment I'm running. So for now it is just you have to keep it as it is. And then this is a volume and the port 8080 env file, which is good that I'm using this env file. This is the name of the env file, and that depends on, like, before we start this container, make sure the Postgres, Redis, Elasticsearch containers are running and ready. And then we have a Celery, and the Celery that we are using the same image that we have used here in the backend. So we don't want to create a new image. And then it's using build process Docker file, which Docker file to use. Then we have app environment production, that's fine. Okay, and the port on with the Celery run 5555 and the env file. So it depends upon the backend service and the Redis. These services should be up and running, then this container should start. Okay, and then we have volumes. Okay, so this is a volume name that will store the data of our application, and this is a bridge, like this is our network name, which is will be bridge between all these containers. So this is a basic configuration for all the services that we are going to use. So in just one command, everything will be ready and running. We don't need to configure anything else. So we are now ready and good to go with our project setup. Our project is running locally correctly and fine. Then you have to create EC2. If your project is not running correctly locally, so ask me in the comment section. Ask me what's the problem you're facing, because this is very straightforward. So when you get successfully done locally, it's mean you are going to do it 100% correctly onto the server. So you ask me in the comment section if you have any doubt, any problem. I will be answering all the queries. So now let's jump into my AWS console. We are going to create an EC2 instance. So I will just type EC2 and just click on EC2. I am going to use Ohio region, which is US East 2. So what I have to do, I have to create an instance. I will just give name to my instance. It will be code with move Ubuntu. And one thing I have to make sure you use T3 family, which is the latest one, T3 and large. Why large? Because if you will use T2 medium, it can stop and hang, because you're using multiple services. We're using Celery, Elasticsearch, Redis. But in case if you don't want to use Elasticsearch, Celery in your project, which is not needed in most of the basics projects, you can remove from Docker Compose, and then you can use T2 medium. Okay, so you have to just run your database and Django application. But if you're using Elasticsearch, Celery, so I would recommend highly, so you should use T3 large. And one more thing, if you don't want to use Docker Compose in your project, you don't want to Dockerize, if your project is very simple, if you want to simply deploy it on AWS EC2 without Docker, you can watch this video where you can just deploy your application easily on EC2. Also, if you're looking for AWS RDS and S3 bucket, you want to also configure it, then you can watch this video where you can learn how to deploy with these S3 and RDS. Okay, now let's get started with this. I will just create a new keep here. I will give name code with move 100. This will be my keep here name. I have to create a new keep here. Sorry, I have to write it here, code with move. Okay, code with move, I think that's fine. Just create a new keep here. Keep here is downloaded. And here, allow SSH traffic. Just make sure for the security purpose you can use my IP, but for the testing purpose I'm using anywhere, so we can SSH it from any computer if you have the PIM file. And then we have to go here and we have to increase the space. I would recommend the minimum 30 GB should be given, because we are using multiple services, but for the production it should be minimum 50. So I'll just go with the 50, but 30 GB will be also okay. Let's launch the instance. When the instance is launched, you have to go to your security group of your instance. I will just open the security group. And here click on edit inbound rules. We have to add some rules. I want to add a rule here, which is a custom TCP. And the custom TCP, we can enable the port which is 8080. But we will access our application just on IP address, but we have to, for the configuration, we have to allow these ports, and we can also allow PostgreSQL, which is from everywhere, which is good. Okay, and we have to also allow HTTP and HTTPS. So I will say just allow these as well, and HTTP. Okay, so we are good to go with our security group rules. Now we have to go to our EC2 instance and we have to access it. We have to just little wait. It is going to initialize. When the initialization check is done, then we will just click on connect. And then we have to copy two commands. First, we will copy this command. Okay, we have to run this to ensure the key is not publicly viewable. Okay, so point number 3 command we will execute. Then we will execute this example command. So I will just open my terminal. In the terminal, I will just make sure I'm at the correct path where my PIM file is downloaded. So I will just first execute this first command, and then I will just go to my and then I will copy this command. Before you run this command, just you have to make sure one thing, which is the initialization. So you can connect successfully when your instance is running and everything is okay to go. Okay, then you can run this command. So we can just try to connect with the instance. Yes. Okay, I'm connected with my instance successfully. Now I have to install the required packages I have to install to get up and running my project. The command that I'm going to use to install all these packages you can get from my LinkedIn article that is available in this video description. So you can get this link and you can route to this LinkedIn article. These will be all the commands. You have to copy all these commands one by one and you have to execute it. Also follow me because I will also add some more details. So I will just go here and I will first run the first command. I will also tell you what this command will do. This command will update the package index to ensure you have the latest information about available packages on this EC2 instance. And when this is done, we will go and install the Nginx. We have to install the Nginx web server next. Okay. This command we will use to install the Nginx server on our EC2 instance. And after that, we have to install the Docker. This is a command basically which installs the Docker from the default Ubuntu package repository. So we can install the Docker easily using this command. And after this command, we are going to run another command. I'll just make it clear. So this command, this command will add Ubuntu user to the Docker group, allowing to the user to run Docker commands without sudo. But yes, we will just add this. And then we have to activate the changes made to the user group without requiring system reboot. So just run this command. And we have to set the read, write, and execute permission for all the user for this Docker socket. Just run this command next. And then we have to install the Docker Compose. For the Docker Compose, we are going to run this command. So it will download the latest version of Docker Compose and save it to this path, which is user local, this path. So on this path, it will be saved. So the Docker Compose is installed. Okay. So we have to make the Docker Compose binary executable. For this, we will be running a command. And then when we are done, we have to just run another command to check if the Docker is successfully installed. So we can check Docker Compose variant, which is the latest variant. In your case, it can be another latest variant, because currently this is the latest. Okay, next we have to clone our GitHub project. So I will do git clone from my project. You can follow me on GitHub if you want to see the latest repos. I always every week create new interesting repos, so you can get notified and you can utilize it. Okay, so we can continue. Here we go, and we can clone it. Yeah, so this is my repo. Interestingly, this repo is public, so I will not being asked to have some password. So it will be automatically cloned. But if you have the private repo for your project, how you can clone the private repo. You can watch this video to clone the private repo and configure your repo, so next time it will not ask you for the password, so you will just happy to pull new changes, clone, and whatever you do with the repo, you will be easily doing your private repo cloning on EC2. Okay, my repo is cloned, so what I have to do next, I will just go to my folder. Okay, now we have to run the docker compose command, so we can run all the containers on our EC2 instance. So if I have to go to my Visual Studio Code, so this command that I run here, but this is supported for the older version, but as you have installed the new version on the EC2 instance, so there will be little change into this command, so we will be using something like that. So you can try this command first. If this command does not work, any problem, you can use this command. So these both commands are available in the readme of the GitHub repo. So I'll just copy this command and I will go to my terminal, and here I will just run the command. Before you run the command, just make sure you have the latest code on your EC2 instance. If you have made any changes to your local project, just push the changes onto the GitHub and then take a pull. Okay, so now it's going to fetch all the images required for my Docker Compose. Everything mentioned in the Docker Compose, it's building, and it can take approximately maybe 2 minutes. It will set up database, PostgreSQL, Celery, Redis, Elasticsearch, everything which is needed for almost for a bigger project to do a complete setup. So we have to wait for here, so till all these things are ready. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can subscribe. It will help me to create more content. Also, if you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. You can just like and ask me in the questions, comment it, because the YouTube algorithm will help me to engage and push my content to other audience, so they can also get help from my content. Okay, so we have to just wait here. So as you can see here, it is currently installing all the requirements.txt packages available in my project, and all above the commands, those were mentioned in the Docker container file. Okay, and you can also see how much it is done, 13 by 14. So I think it's almost done. So all the images, Docker containers, everything is good to go, and it is going to finish. Okay, so all the containers are successfully created and started. So you have to wait for 30 seconds, and after that you can just you will need to run a command, which will be a command which will tell us if all the Docker containers are running successfully or not, which is a sudo docker ps command. And this command will tells us all the running containers. So you can see all the containers are up and running. You can see up for 30 seconds, 34, okay, because as we have started, so all my containers are running successfully. Okay, so if you have to check all the container, including the stop container, then you can run this command. But currently we don't have any container that is not running, because all the containers are up and healthy. So it's mean that our project is now successfully set up and done. And one more thing is, if you want to do migrations, migrations command only should be run on locally, not on the production. So you have to run only the migrate command. So if I have to go to my Visual Studio Code, I will just copy a command that I have here, which is execute migrate command. So you can directly run this command, okay, which is my container name, and this will run this command. So it will migrate and create all the tables required for my project. Maybe I can clear it. Okay. Okay, all the migrations are completed, so you can run all the commands you want to create super user, everything. You can just use this command and just python manage.py create super user, whatever, collect status, any commands you can just run directly using this command. Okay, so as we have our project is successfully set up, next thing is we are going to set up Nginx, so we can access our application on EC2 IP address. So if I just try and go to the EC2 instance, and if I copy the instance public IP and I can try on port 8080, just try what happened. Okay, you can see welcome to the Code with Mo YouTube channel. It's mean our project is successfully deployed. It's mean that we have done our project with some success. Okay, but I don't want to access it on the port 8080. That's why we are going to use Nginx that will help us to reach the project on port just on an IP address, and Nginx will be helping us to behave as a reverse proxy. So let's go to the terminal and we have to just configure Nginx. To configure the Nginx, we have to just follow some steps. Because Nginx is already installed, we have installed it initially. We have to first of all check if any existing Nginx file is available on our system, which is the default file. But you can check it using this command. And you can do ls, you can see default. We have to remove this file. We will create our own file. So I will just run a command sudo remove default, and then we have to create a Nginx file. Because this Nginx file default one is deleted, so we will create our own file, and I will give the file name code with move. Anything you can give to your file, which is fine, but recommendation is always give for the better management, just give the folder name which is a backend where your settings.py file is. Just give that name so you remember in the future if you have to open your instance, you should remember what should be the name of the Nginx file, so you can easily run this command. Now if I go to my Visual Studio Code, and here is my Nginx file configuration code. Here we can see we have listen on port 80, which is HTTP, and the server name, or also we have some configurations, location, like where our static files will be served, because our static files are available at static root. Just make sure one thing. Here you can see home Ubuntu, which is a base folder, and this is a repo name. My repo name is deploy Dockerized Django EC2, which will be your folder name, which is you have cloned on your EC2. Just update this. So I will just going to update it with deploy Dockerized Django AWS EC2. So make sure you have quickly written it, no mistakes, to avoid any problem. So I will just copy it and I will paste it here as well for media files, and also here for the templates. That's it. Okay, so and this will be our IP address. Here you have to replace with your EC2 IP address. How you can get your EC2 IP address? If you go to your here you can just copy this IP address and you can replace with here. Because our application is running on port 8080, so it will handle as a proxy pass, which is good. And the client, if you have going to request what should be the body size and APIs, which is good. So I'll just copy and I will just go and I will paste it here. And I will just save it. So next what we have to do, I will also make sure that I have pushed all the latest changes to the GitHub, and what I have to do, I have to next I have to enable it. I have to enable and activate these configurations. For this I will do one thing, which is my Nginx file name was backend, so I will say here the backend, and this file will be enabled. So we are good to go with the Nginx. And one more thing that we have to do, we have to add a username to load the static files. Okay, I will just enter this command, and my username is Ubuntu. How you can get, because here you can see this is your Ubuntu name. If you're not using AWS EC2 something else, so you have to enter your username here. And when you are done with this, just make sure your Nginx configuration syntax is okay. So for this you can enter sudo nginx test. So my Nginx code is correct and perfect, so I can move further and I can start, and the systemctl command, which we have to, by the way, all these commands are available in the article, so you can easily get these commands. And then we have to run another command, which is sudo service nginx restart. Okay, so it is restarted, but one thing that I will do, I will just make sure I have my latest code. If I go to my deploy, I have to make sure my latest code is on the EC2, and I can rebuild it with Docker Compose file. Okay, this was my Docker Compose file that I have to run, which I have already run, and same command we have to run and start the service again if the code is changed. And now we have to, after 20 seconds, when all the containers are up, we can restart our Nginx. Okay, so Nginx is restarted, and then we can go and we can access the application on IP address. Simply just remove the port 80 and we can access the applications on just an IP address, which is amazing. So now we have successfully deployed. We can go to our admin and we can do other stuffs. You can see our static files are also loaded. One thing that I will make sure you don't, if your static files are not loaded, so you have to make sure in your urls.py files here you have these lines defined. Okay, and in the settings.py you have these lines, portion the lines available in your settings.py, so you can make sure your static files are loaded successfully. Next, one thing is interesting. If we want to automate the deployment, like if I have to push the changes, they should be automatically deployed. I don't need to all the time, I don't need to SSH to the EC2 and run the commands manually. The simple way is just I have to go here and I have to, in this my repo, so you will have your own repo and you will go into the settings here, and we are going to configure GitHub Actions CI/CD pipeline, so we can automatically deploy our new changes to the EC2. So here you have to click on actions and you have to click on runners. So first we have to create a new self-hosted runner. We have to select in Linux. So first copy this first command and execute, and just copy me. Make sure you are at the root folder, root directory, not at any folder. So make sure you are at the main root path of your EC2. Just then run the command. Okay, and then you have to run the second command, which is this one. It will download the latest runner package on your EC2. Okay, and then you have to copy, you can extract this, the third command, which this is optional, you don't need to run. Just okay. So then we have to copy the next command, which is this one. Create the runner and start the configuration. We don't need to run this command, just wait for me, and this will be our next command. Okay, just hit enter. Okay, default, all good. Okay, now next we have to create a file, which is a system file script, okay, so which can keep our runner activate all the time. Even we restart our EC2, so our runner can be activated all the time. So in this file we have to paste our content, okay. So here you can see this is my actions runner folder path, which is good. You don't need to make any changes, just save this, okay. And then you have to run few commands, all the commands available in my article. So this is, first of all, it will reload, and then we have to enable the script. As our script name is run script, it will create a system link, and then we have to run the script, and then we have to check the status, okay. So as we have to make sure our script is running, activated, okay. If this is active running, it's mean we have successfully configured our GitHub Actions. So what do we have to do next? The next thing is we have to do one thing, okay. We have to go to the GitHub, or we have to go to the VS Code. Here we go, you can see the .github folder. Inside the .github folder we have workflows folder, and inside that we have YAML file. So what you can do here, we have whenever the code is pushed to the main branch, it will, if any pull request or code is pushed directly to the main branch, okay, so then it will automatically deploy our changes, okay. So I think everything is good. Branches name main, all good. And deploy Dockerized EC2 instance, my folder name is also correct, and it have to pull the main branch, not the staging. So but just make sure if your branch name is different, you have to change it. And this command is also correct, all good, okay. And here because when the Docker build, every time it creates some space, it takes some space, so we have to just keep the space empty, make sure our EC2 instance is clean. So I'm going to post changes, and I will see the magic no. If I go to my GitHub repo, here click on actions. In the actions you can see the new changes are coming, and these changes will be deployed automatically. You can see the deployment has been started and processed, and it is running every step. You don't need to do manual things, just do this and you are going to get it done. So because we don't want to do things manually, we have to save time. One more thing, if your repo is private, as I mentioned earlier, you have to configure your private repo. So because it will be going to poll and take changes. So if your repo is authenticated, if you already authenticated your private repo as explained, then that's fine. Okay, so our deployment successfully done, and it has success change. If it's failed, it will see the cross. Otherwise, it's successfully done. So what I will do, I will just refresh, and as I can see, because I have not made any changes, if I will make changes, you will see the changes as well. So this is how you can successfully done. I hope you like the video, and if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. And if you have done successfully, you can write something for me in the comments, and you can subscribe if you want. And anything else you want to ask me, you can send me a connection request on LinkedIn as well. I will be happy to reply you. And stay tuned for more videos. You can watch more videos on my YouTube channel. If you want to reply React, any other tech frameworks, you can watch the videos, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.